Hello, welcome to another Haxe video. In this video we're going to have a look at how to structure your projects in Haxe and how to create new files and put your classes into the files, and also how to create folders and packages. So for this video we're not really going to be looking at the code I use. It's going to mainly be as an example project so you can see what a growing project might look like and how you would organize a project if it's becoming bigger and you're adding more files. So as an example, we're just going to be using a simple project where there's a list of users that we can do stuff with. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a new file for a new class that we're going to make. And generally, when you're making a new class and it's going to be like a big class, you want to put it in a separate file because that makes it easier to find specific classes in your code. Also, I think it might speed up compilation time. So to make a new file in Visual Studio Code, we right click here and we click new file, and we're going to call this file user.hx. And when we're naming a file, it's the same as if we were naming a class, so we use Pascal case, which means that the first letter of each word is uppercase. And also, the name of the file is also the same as the name of the class that's going to be inside of the file. So this file is called user, and that's because the class we're going to have is going to be called user. So we'll just name it like that. And then we're going to add some more code inside of here later on, but for now we'll just leave it as is. When we have files in the same directory as our main file, we can actually access them very easily. So if we were to make a static variable and call it user, and it's going to be of type user, as you can see we don't get any errors. And if we were to initialize this variable, okay, I think we'll just make a constructor for this quickly. Just an empty one. As you can see, we don't get any errors, and we can also put package here, just out of convention, but without it, if we run this, we're not going to have any problems with our code. So we don't actually have to have package here, but for the purposes of this video, I'm going to put it in files that aren't the main file. So we don't actually have to import this user class or anything. However, if we were to make another class in here, or actually it's going to be a type def called stats, and for now we won't define it as anything, and we try to create a stats variable. As you can see, this does have a squiggly line because it doesn't recognize it. User is the only class in this file we can use without having to do anything extra. However, we could also access the stats type by writing user.stats. And if we import user, then we can use all of the types in the user file as if they were defined in the file that we were writing. So now I'm just going to paste some code into this class, and also we're going to replace this so that we actually use the constructor properly. So if we run this, as you can see, we don't get any problems. All of the types are being used. And one more thing that we're going to look at is if we make this a private type, then in this file we don't have any problems. However, here, even though we've imported user, we can no longer access this type because this type is only accessible within this file. So that's how you can make sure that your types are not accessible outside of a file. You can use that so that people know that a type is only supposed to be used internally in your library, for example. So now we're going to go back into the Explorer, and we're going to create a new folder inside of here. We're going to call it user, and in Haxe, when you create a new folder inside of your project, you name it using all lowercase letters. And now we're going to move this user file inside of here. And as you can see, we're getting a bunch of problems here. And that's because now that this file is inside of a folder, we have to put that folder name as the package. So we just type user. And we'll get into nested directories in a couple minutes. But for now, to import this, now we just have to put user.user. And if we make any new files inside of here, then we just have to make sure that we put the package as user. However, Visual Studio Code should do that for you by default. And when we import them, we always look at what folder they're in and then the file name. And we use a dot in between those. So now if we run this again, we should get the same result. Now we're going to create a new file inside of here and call it userlist.hx. And this is going to have another class, and as you can see, it did put the package in for us, which is useful. And this class is going to be called userList. And we're just going to put in some code here. And the purpose of this tutorial again isn't to explain the code used. However, what you need to know is that we have a constructor, a function to access the first user in the list, and also a way to access the length of the list. As you can see, this file accesses the user class, and because they're both inside of the same folder on the same level in the hierarchy here, because they're in the same package, we don't have to put the package name before the file name when accessing the type. Also, another distinction that you can make when importing is you can import a specific type from within a file. So this actually imports the whole file. However, if we wanted to import just the user class, we can do user.user, and this will import just this class and not this type. So as you can see, this is not identified now. So now we're going to remove this import and instead import user.userList. And we're going to remove these. And here, instead we're going to have this. We're just going to create a user list, and actually we have to make that a variable. We're going to create a user list with a length of 10, then print its length. So we should get 10. And as you can see, we do get 10. So now the last thing we're going to do is we're going to create another folder inside of here for stats. And again, that's going to be lowercase. And then we're going to create a new file here called stats. And this is going to just contain our stats type. So we're just going to paste this. And this is to show that inside of a file, the type that we have doesn't necessarily have to be a class. It could just be a type def. And that will work fine. Now to import this, we have to actually type the full path. Or we can't just type in stats. So as you can see, when we have a folder inside of a folder, we just use dot to separate them. And yeah, again, this package is going to be user.stats. So again, we have the user folder and then the stats folder. And now if we wanted to access it here, we'd also have to import it in the same way as here. So this is the end of this tutorial. I'm sorry if it was a bit all over the place, but I just wanted to go through some of the main things you might run into as you're making your project bigger and you're adding new files to it, and how to organize it. So I hope that was useful. Please subscribe for more videos, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.